Happy New Year, everybody. I am the Goblin King, and I bring you New Year's greetings and well wishes from the deepest, darkest paths of the deepest, darkest primordial places. Yeah, I know that's geeky. My goblins and I have been celebrating a new year and trying to forget the annoyances and tragedies of the last. 2021 left me a real banger of a gift on the way out, too. A blown-out tire and no spare in the trunk. But there's a jack. It was amazing. Yes, I can man my way out of a blown-out tire, if I have all the required equipment to do so. A spare tire is pretty fucking essential to this particular manning up equation. So this week is a pretty special week in pop culture. With the ringing in of a new year, we're essentially consigning the last to the annals of time this week. So, for this week, we have Lezbi-kin wannabes based Japan, a grip of articles related to a Gamergate necromancer, D&D life coaches, and the sad passing of an absolute celluloid legend. So grab your favorite hangover cure, put on your favorite shades, get comfy, and let's consign 2021 to hell where it belongs. The first story off of my curated list comes from my apparent pop culture mainstay, bounding into comics. So, this is the sad tale of yet another Hollywood mainstay being knocked off of her pedestal by a virtue signal. Marisa Tomei, the hot Aunt May, recently did an interview with a bunch of geek virtue signalers on YouTube and told them about her bright idea to make Aunt May a lesbian. As a disclaimer, I first heard the term, I believe, from Gary over at Nerdrotic. I've always thought of it as they're not lesbians, but they want it that much, so they're just kin. Lezbi-kin. Yeah, I know, I'm a fucking geek. So, according to this article, Tomei really wanted to make Aunt May a lesbian just cuz. I mean, she did mention Uncle Ben and him being gone, so I'll give her that much at least. However, I'm pretty sure that, despite the blue-haired land whales trying to say otherwise, is not how sexuality works. You're not just suddenly into chowing down on box just because your husband dies. Yes, bisexuality is a thing. A very greedy thing. Not to step over any bi people that might be watching this vid. However, it does nothing to further the character or her story. It just takes the character even further away from what she was in order to show everyone just how progressive we are. It's utterly ridiculous, and it needs to stop. The next tale is the tale of a Japanese company standing up to bullshit Western bullshit. Now, the reason this particular article is just from Bounding is because the original article was in Japanese. Now, I know a little chotto Japanese, but nowhere near enough to even parse out this title. I'm so far from fluent, I'm basically at toddler level. I know just enough to know I don't know nearly enough. Say that 3 times fast. Therefore, I had to use Bounding's article for this one, rather than go to the source. Basically, what this article is saying is that after a long legal battle over the global distribution rights to Ultraman, the current CEO of Tsuburaya is wanting to take the Ultraman franchise global, on his terms. He couches it in the idea of centering the Ultraman franchise within the Japanese culture, but it's fairly plain that he doesn't want Western intersectional politics to be pushed onto Ultraman. There are currently several Ultraman projects in the works, including a CGI movie in collaboration with Netflix and ILM. Hopefully, Tsuburaya can stand firm. If Japan stands firm, they could wind up saving us all. The next story comes in 3 parts and is about a gaming urinalist, Kim, trying to practice his necromantic skills and raise the corpse of Gamergate into the present day. At least, that's my opinion of what he's trying to do. To be clear, I wasn't around for Gamergate. I wasn't around for the initial stages of Comicsgate either, for that matter. I honestly only have a vague idea of what Gamergate was actually all about because it's difficult to find actual, honest, unbiased reporting on it. Everything I've ever come across is, well, you know what it is. Though I've heard that it was basically about gamers being pissed at games media for being pathetic fucking shills. Something that doesn't surprise me and, frankly, has never surprised me. I've also heard something about Zoe Quinn pretty much being at the center of it and starting the whole shitfest. I'm not sure about that. I don't know. Then the urinalists proceeded to paste gamers as toxic misogynists and all that. Basically the same playbook they've used for years now. Notably with Ghostbusters 2016 and The Last Jedi. You're calling us out on our bullshit. Therefore, you're a terrible thing. Yeah, fuck that and fuck them. Anyway, this article is basically take him being a whinging little bitch, in my opinion, and trying to stir shit up again by stating that games developers and gamers are all toxic misogynists because we like to look at aesthetically pleasing things. In this article, he holds up Aloy from the Horizon series as some sort of pinnacle of feminist gaming because they didn't make her look like a supermodel. Meanwhile, stepping over or outright maligning all of the amazing female leads in video games that came before because they are, in his vaunted opinion, too pretty. He, of course, hits all the buzzwords: sexist, misogynist, male gaze, all that jazz. Throw me in a racist and you're not a bingo. Conveniently stepping over the very idea of the female gaze as well, and stepping over female opinions. What does that sound like to you? And the next article I'm highlighting for this, from Screen Rant, is more of the same crap, and came out near the beginning of December. It's some whiny douchebag, in my opinion, crying about how, quote-unquote, dated the character designs for the Arkham games are. While this guy does go over Batman and Nightwing's designs, he spends a lot more time decrying Catwoman and Harley, in particular, out as being for the male gaze, while lauding the new covered-up Harley from the upcoming Suicide Squad game. Sounds like this guy has an issue with women showing their bodies. Maybe he believes they should all be in burqas. The only reason I included this is to showcase how closely together these articles with similar themes were posted. I'm sure there are more too that I've missed. Sound like somebody trying to resurrect something? The last article in this little series here is from Forbes, and takes a more sane, middle path approach to all this. The guy actually calls out the whiny bitch, in my opinion, take him for his article. He states that while the video game industry obviously has a lot of issues with sexism, citing the recent upheavals at Ubisoft, Blizzard, and even Sony, that the entire debate around the perceived attractiveness of a female character is ultimately reductive. That it ultimately only serves to try to state that there's some correct way of a female being presented in any medium. Which, despite the fact that the guy paints anyone who has an issue with Aloy's appearance as sexist, and using words like male gaze unironically, his argument is quite sound. He correctly asserts that it's not just male gamers, but that a majority of female gamers actually like looking at pretty women too. While aesthetics is ultimately subjective, I do believe personally that there is a baseline for all human aesthetic. Everyone likes to look at something pretty, something aesthetically pleasing. I mean, you can run around playing something like the Hulk for the entirety of a game, sure. However, I know that when I have a choice, if I'm playing a game for upwards of 60 hours, I want to look at something pretty. Therefore, I generally tend to choose the female models. Also, can we seriously stop pretending that it's actually possible to objectify an object? Please. At the end of the day, a video game character, comic character, whatever, is a fucking object. It's a gathering of colored pixels on a screen. Literally an object. And how I look at a mass of pixels does not directly translate to my real-world behavior. If that were the case, there'd be a lot more bodies in my past. Just saying. The next story is all about cultural appropriation. Now I might be being a little bit hyperbolic, but they do say geek culture is a thing, and Hasbro and WotC have certainly appropriated that culture and turned it into shit. Before I get too far into this, I have to shout out Clownfish TV. They're the ones that brought this utter travesty to my attention. They're great and nearly do 250,000 subs. So jealous. Go show them some love, if you haven't already. So, hopefully, everyone has heard my rant from a few weeks ago when I spoke about WotC changing monsters for somehow being racist. I definitely made my feelings on this bullshit known there. However, this was just something that I couldn't ignore. This is the penultimate evidence that D&D means absolutely nothing to these people. Geek culture in general, and all the franchises we kept alive over the decades in specific. None of it means anything to these utter pieces of shit. This shit is a fucking self-help book with a D&D theme. Not kidding, not joking. Tackle life with advantage with this officially licensed guide to life inspired by the world of Dungeons and Dragons. This playful, inspirational book invites fantasy lovers and fans of Dungeons & Dragons to celebrate and incorporate different elements of this iconic tabletop game in their lives and help them live their best, geekiest life. Written by Kat Kruger, the Dungeon Master of the popular Dungeons & Dragons actual play podcast, D20 Dames, and isn't that clever? You'll learn how to take the skills, knowledge, and sense of adventure from your D&D campaign to help you better understand everything from how you interact with the world around you to facing the random events that life sometimes throws at you, with advice from classic player classes like the Fighter, Warlock, Bard, Monk, or Ranger, and ways to take your experiences as a player or a dungeon master and use them in your day-to-day life. How to be more D&D also features interactive elements like building your character and dungeon master state of mind. Quizzes like, what is your D&D class? And paired with rich, full-color art from the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Whether it is building your real-world character, discovering your ideal class and strength, harnessing the 3 pillars of play for everyday use, or using role-playing techniques to your advantage. How to be more D&D explores how to enjoy the campaign known as life, and is a perfect gift for any tabletop gamer or D&D fan. Yeah, that was fucking awful. But what really gets me is this part here. How they say that they're honoring the traditions of D&D. They're not honoring shit at this point. Maybe 10 years or so ago they were honoring D&D. Maybe even 7 years ago when they first launched 5th edition they were honoring D&D's past. Not anymore. Not with this, and not with any of their newer products which shit on the legacy. Not in the way they put disclaimers on all the older products and claim the old shit was sexist, racist, and all around ethophobic. Putting disclaimers literally means you're not claiming this shit. You're literally disavowing it, disowning it, and denouncing that old stuff. You're literally fucking disowning D&D's past, and its traditions, and its legacy. You fucking dipshits. That's what you're literally doing with every disclaimer you put on the old material. You can't then turn around and state that you're continuing to honor the legacy of Dungeons & Dragons, you fucking postulating genital warts. Fuck you and everything about you. The last story is a sad one, and a darkly ironic way to send off 2021. Today, as of this recording, Betty White passed away at the age of 99. She was 17 days from her 100th birthday. Betty White was fucking amazing. Just going off of what little I know about her, she was a beautiful person in general. I first watched her as a child when she was on Golden Girls. Over time I learned that she obviously wasn't that Tootsie Rose. She was witty and hilariously funny and irreverent. It was quite obvious that over the last 20 years she'd stopped giving a fuck what people thought of her, and I find that admirable. Go with the goddess, Miss White. You will be missed. Well, I'd say that's all there is for this year, ladies and gentlemen. I'll hopefully see you all tomorrow with my first rant of the year. 2021 was a shit show in a lot of ways for sure, but there was some decent stuff to come along as well. Hopefully 2022 is a bit better for things. We'll see, I guess. It's been fun, people. I'll see you next year. Lates.